we'll get rolling here. Good afternoon. My name is Mark Kleinschmidt. I have the great good fortune of being the president and CEO of the Anne Arundel Chamber of Commerce. And today is the March installment of what we are calling our virtual leadership luncheon series. We've been having these one in Anne Arundel County. And today we're very pleased to have the mayor of Annapolis, Gavin Buckley. A lot of us know Gavin. He's been here in Annapolis since 1992, was elected mayor in 2017. And first and foremost, I always want to thank him and other elected folks for taking the time to be in those positions, because it is a tough job to do that. And I think what has happened since Gavin has taken office, as many elected people have found, it might be more than they bargained for. No one could have predicted what would have happened with the pandemic and the challenges that we've had. With that, before I do further announcement or introduction of the mayor, I want to thank our sponsor, Maryland Live. They've been very supportive of the chamber and for the luncheon series, so thank you. And we've got a couple board members who are with us today that I'd like to recognize. Carl Snowden, our newest board member, is with us. David McClatchy has joined us. Jan Wood. Sean Dorden and Heather Layler are with us today. So thank you for your leadership in keeping the chamber heading forward. So now to our speaker. Mayor Buckley has not only done the normal activities of running the city, but he's also undertaken some large projects. The challenge of the flooding downtown has been very difficult for the city for many years. And the redevelopment of City Dock. So he has taken on both together, and he has created a process to bring together a group, City Dock Task Force, that's kind of combined the Hillman garage redevelopment project and the redevelopment of the City Dock area. The mayor joked earlier on in this process that he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for bringing together the real estate community, the business owners, the historical community, and the environmentalists. And I think we're going to nominate you for that, Mr. Mayor, because it's been a success and things have moved forward. And he's going to share a little bit about where the status is of that project. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker for the day, the Honorable Gavin Buckley.
Well, it's great to be here today, Mark. I really do wish we were all in person. I miss being in a room with people, and I think when we get to the other side of this, there's a light in the end of the tunnel. We're truly going to appreciate just the simple things, sitting around a table with talking, simple get-togethers, all the sort of stuff that we've taken for granted, shaking a hand, truly looking somebody in the eye, all those things. So I'm looking forward to our next in-person event. So today I want to thank Mark Kleinschmidt for asking me here today. I'm excited to tell you what we've been up to in the city of Annapolis to help the business community, especially in this unprecedented year of COVID-19. This is a story of city government and business working together. I'm looking forward to telling you about where we are heading next. So I'm Gavin Buckley. As you can tell by my accent, I'm not from around here. I know you probably think it's a Glen Burnie accent or something like that, but actually it's from Australia. I was raised in Perth, came to Annapolis on a boat, landing right here at City Dock. After starting out on the lowest rung of the restaurant industry, I built a portfolio of restaurants that I owned or co-owned in the city. In 2015, I got into a fight with the city, and shortly after that battle ended, I decided to run for mayor in 2017. It is my first elected office, and it's for 4 years. So this year, voters get to decide if we're heading in the right direction. I am running for a second term. We were all sick of hearing about COVID, but it has been a year like no other. So I'm going to talk about how government works with business to help them succeed. It was 1 year ago this week that the governor's ordered to shut down everything for the pandemic. In Annapolis, I convened the Annapolis City Council and I issued a state of emergency. The state of emergency declaration was a big deal because it allowed us to do things like allow to-go liquor, to suspend license renewals, to delay and work with businesses on water and wastewater payments. We knew this was going to be hard on businesses. In March, we did a couple of things. We launched an initiative called Curbside Chats. We kept these chats outside, socially distanced. We listened to the concern of business owners. We did these in each ward and business district across the city with our manager of the Office of Economic Development, Stephen Rice. We heard a lot. Business owners were confused and they were frustrated. Most wanted to be heard, and some were impossibly frustrated that they were not as in control of their fates as business owners as of this invisible virus. We also launched a public health campaign. When the mask mandate came out, I launched a hashtag Mayors with Masks initiative, where we got mayors from both parties to post pictures of themselves in masks to get the public used to seeing what had previously been seen only in faraway places. At the forefront of this effort was public health, always the public health, but it showed a coordination between myself and mayors in many municipalities around the state. But we also knew we needed a plan. Annapolis has a unique business landscape. It is mostly small businesses. Many of the owners live locally and are independents. The industries vary from hospitality to service to retail, tech, and maritime. In order to help them, we needed to know the specifics of their needs. We formed a small business recovery task force with business representatives from all industries and all areas of the city. Young, old, black, white, Hispanic, men and women. We wanted a diverse array of perspectives. We brought them together in virtual meetings. We broke them into work groups by industry where we thought they would bubble up ideas for us. What really happened was they networked with one another. One of the common refrains was, "It is very comforting to know I'm not in this alone." With that in mind, we expanded and formalized the networking, allowing people to volunteer as mentors and giving people the option to sign up for one-on-one sessions. To date, more than 100 businesses owners have participated one-on-one business consulting services or seminars or webinars with our experts. All of this was provided free by the city. One of the overriding concerns was whether and when the governor gave the okay to open, if we in the city of Annapolis would be ready. One of the things we learned about 2 weeks before the governor began the reopening sequence at the beginning of June was that businesses were going to need a way to expand their capacity. The federal government had helped with money. In our city, especially downtown and Eastport, the historic nature of buildings and the walkable scale of the sidewalks and streets, it is just perfect for spilling tables out of the indoors and onto sidewalks and into closed off sections of streets. We had 10 days. I asked our city team to make it happen. I don't think they were very happy with me. In fact, they weren't very happy because they didn't think they could make all of our city departments function together in that short a window of time. Everything had to go right, and there was no room for error. But I don't think we had a choice other than to work through the problems. Our businesses were counting on us to find solutions so that they could not only open, but so that they could follow the rules, serve their customers, keep the curve of the virus bent, and maintain the public health in the long term so we could keep it all going. Some of the issues included, could a fire truck get through? Could ambulance or police cars? Were we blocking fire hydrants? Were diners sitting in seats on closed off streets in danger of being hit if there was a runaway vehicle? Could we get the detours approved? Did we need to give business additional licenses for liquor or outdoor seating? Could we procure all the items we needed for signage and trash from Public Works? I think you all know what it worked out. We opened our first recovery zone the Wednesday after the governor gave the green light, with a lot of help from federal, state, and county funding support. County Executive Pittman was a great friend to the city by ensuring we didn't duplicate efforts and helping us with business grants to pay for tents and barricades and more. The weather cooperated, and throughout the summer and fall, with minor tweaks here and there, we balanced the needs of restaurants and retail, and we were not alerted to any spikes traced to city-run recovery zones. As the weather turned cooler and people didn't want to be outdoors as much, we faced new challenges, modifications to downtown events like Midnight Madness, and even more disappointing for businesses, their customers, and cancellations of some of Annapolis's favorite winter things. Again, we knew we would have to help out, and one of the ways we tried to help was to appeal to residents and to visitors to remember to shop small, shop local. We took out full-page advertisements in the Capital newspaper showing the faces of our Annapolis business owners. I'd like to take a moment to recognize and thank city workers. Early on, we knew residents and businesses needed city transit drivers, water and wastewater plant workers, refuse and recycling folks, police, fire, OEM, DPW. They needed to be on the job, and they did not miss a beat. We did have people in city employee, essential workers who got COVID. Thankfully, the policies and procedures we put in place kept the virus from spreading, among our ranks. We lost no one to coronavirus, but I want to give them a special nod because they knew what needed to be done for our residents, for our businesses, and they got it done. Throughout all of this, business owners were still willing to take a chance on Annapolis. New businesses opened. We revised our ribbon cutting ceremonies to be masked and socially distanced. We learned a lot of lessons in 2020, but one thread that will continue to follow us into the new year of 2021 is the need from businesses and the desire from the city to support the recovery of the city. We want to keep what people like, the sidewalk dining, the outdoor events, the business networking, and the free consulting. Through the pandemic shutdown and recovery events and shutdowns, the city had to pay attention to other things. Sea level rise didn't stop nuisance flooding events from happening in Annapolis just because of coronavirus. Before COVID, I'd worked to bring a quick fix solution to sunny day flooding events on City Dock while we awaited more permanent, longer-term solutions. We installed backflow preventers and small electric pumps in the storm drains to keep the water from seeping up into the streets. The main cause of sunny day flooding. That holds the water away until the flood stage reaches around 4 feet. We are currently working on a medium-term solution at Compromise Street, a pumping station, and a series of pumps to keep the water out. Then, of course, is the biggest project of all, the reimagining of our city dock. Over the years, there have been a number of attempts to fix City Dock, fix the flooding, fix the parking. The solutions would be proposed, the community would get riled up, and nothing would ever get across the finish line. I knew if we wanted to do something, and make no mistake, it isn't a choice we have any longer. There is more flooding, and it is happening more frequently. If we wanted a solution, it would need to come from the ground up, a crowdsourced solution for the 21st century. That is where the 100-person strong City Dock Action Group and working teams came to the rescue. We asked Eileen Fogarty to chair this group. We got residents, business owners, subject matter experts, and we put them all in the same room. They had a directive to figure it out. One of the more ingenious outgrowths was the idea for the Resilience Financing Authority. This is a little like the Stadium Authority, but it allows counties and municipalities in Maryland to issue bonds to fund infrastructure projects without tapping local taxpayers. We worked with County Executive Stuart Pittman and State Senator Sarah Elfreth to get that legislation through last year's shortened General Assembly session. We've not issued Resiliency Financing Authority bonds for the project we have in our immediate future, the most immediate of which is the rebuild of Hillman Garage. The garage is at the end of its natural service life. 20 years beyond the end, that is. We will be using a public-private financing arrangement with Annapolis Mobility Resilience Partners, a consortium of 10 companies who will design, build, and eventually operate the garage on a ground lease. At the end of the arrangement, the city will get the garage back. Through this unique financing arrangement, the long-term lease of the garage, which the city owns, this will be the funding mechanism for the project. AMRP will then have the ability to bid on the rebuild of City Dock. For that project, we envision a beautiful park, elevated 6 to 9 feet to keep the water out, with the reworking of the parking and traffic flow in the area. Together with the garage, this will be the largest municipal project in the city's history, without again going to the local taxpayer. We have a few other capital projects in that area you should know about. One is a surplusing of the Burtis House to the city. We are working with the National Park Service to put that building to good use in a key area of City Dock. It is a cornerstone property that links the historic City Dock to the US Naval Academy. The Naval Academy is a true partner to the city in this flooding mitigation strategy. We share the harbor. We need to share in the solutions to protect City Dock and the Academy. The other thing we are working on is the Guardians of the First Amendment Memorial, which will be along Compromise Street at Newman Street, next to the new pumping station. As you all know, Annapolis was the site of a horrific workplace shooting in June 28th, 2018, when 5 Capital Gazette staff and journalists were gunned down. This happened in the first 6 months of my tenure. The Guardians Memorial will be a place of reflection to honor them and the importance of a free press. The Caucus of African American Leaders, who has championed this memorial, will hold a ribbon cutting on June 28th, 2021, the 3rd anniversary of that horrific day. Speaking of First Amendment, this year is also a time of upheaval for many other cities across America, has been. Between Black Lives Matter protests, the Reopen Marylanders here in Annapolis, we had to ensure that people's rights were protected while ensuring that things didn't get out of hand. Again, a delicate balancing act, but Annapolis has no boarded up shops, and most importantly, no incidents of violence. We handled it, and I want to thank all the protesters for their efforts at this time in the city of Annapolis. And we had multiple protests from multiple different interest groups, and our city should be proud of how that was handled. Around the city, we are working to upgrade water access, including boat ramps at street end parks. We have new piers, new bulkheads, new floating piers, or kayak launch sites. In 2020, we broke ground on a new DPW building on Hudson Street, but we will break ground. Set to open next spring, we have opened the Truxton Pool here in last July. The tennis and pickleball courts are a hot commodity now that they've been upgraded and are finally being resurfaced. We also have accelerated our goals for street and sidewalk repaving, upgraded sewer lines and water lines. We are moving at a rapid pace, and we are doing more of these improvements than ever before. Working with volunteer groups from the Mid-Atlantic Off-Road Enthusiasts or more at Waterworks Park, a parcel of land the city owns on Defense Highway in the county. There are now more than 11 miles of trails in a 600-acre park for hiking and cycling. It is a gem and it is open to the public. You should all check it out. We're also working on a bicycle path greenway that will take you from the historic district all the way to Waterworks. That is a 4-mile trail. I like to think of it as our mini version of the B&A trail that has multiple assets on it. You will be able to get on the Wii, get off at the stadium or the new library or the design district or Whole Foods, or if you're working a job at the hospital, get off at your job at the hospital or the Westfield Mall and then on to Waterworks Park. If you're coming the other direction and you happen to work at the State House and you live at the Millennial Building behind Double T Diner, you'll be able to get on this safe, protected trail and get to your job downtown on an electric scooter, on a bike, or if you just want to run or walk, that 4-mile corridor is going to be another amazing connecting effort that we have championed. We call this the WE because it's the west-east extension of the Poplar Trail. The last thing I want to touch on is the City of Annapolis budget process. I will submit my budget to the council on April 12th, which must be balanced. From there, we will have about 6 weeks of deliberations in the committees, and then their amendments and changes will come before the full council at one full day session in June. We finalize the details and the fiscal year begins in July. And Fred and Ross will probably vote against that. And they'll know I'm joking with them. While we thought we might have some serious cuts to make, the latest round of federal stimulus checks to the city will truly, truly help us. We campaigned hard on a federal level to make the case for this state capital to get direct funding. We have $6 million in the pipeline. I will have my first session with the city manager next week. So in conclusion, this pandemic has demonstrated that the government, especially local government, has a significant role to play in actively helping to maintain the public health and helping business succeed. We can do both, but it is a balancing act. I know our city is going to move forward towards a robust recovery in large measure due to our ability to help businesses along during this difficult time. I am happy to go back to any of the slides that I've just shown you for this presentation for a deeper dive. And again, I thank you all. And so we will leave it with back to you, Mark. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that presentation. And you covered a lot of ground. And you've certainly been a busy guy, to say the least. Want to thank you for all you've done with the business community to kind of keep us focused and heading in the right direction for things. No one knew what to expect when this pandemic started, and good news is we're starting to see some movement, some daylight. So we've got some time for some Q&A. So if you, to try and keep things organized, if you have a question, if you could type it into the chat room, we'll catch the questions that way. I'm having a little connectivity issues here, so I may fade out, and I may, somehow I didn't introduce, very important, Amy Berry, who's our membership coordinator at the chamber. She's going to help out with the Q&A if I drop off here. Just to go back for a minute, Mr. Mayor, talk a little bit maybe about the timetable for the big project. I guess it starts with Hillman. Maybe you could just review that a little bit.
Yeah, I would like to make the case that, I haven't run away from hard things. Some people make decisions based around voting dates and politically expedient things. I've probably done the opposite to that. I've taken on hard things and got grief, learned things along the way. But one thing I knew, that we couldn't tackle City Dock without adding more parking capacity. The Hillman Garage had a study done on it in 2013 that had said it is it's past its useful life, but if we spend a bunch of money on it, we can prop it up for 5 more years. That was in 2013. It's now 2021. So we knew we needed to replace it. It had to come down, but we knew we also had the ability to add some parking capacity, but also design the garage of the future. We all believe that in the future, a lot of us will be driving a lot less. So maybe in 20 or 30 years, we might need to convert part of that garage into apartments or offices. I believe it's designed in such a way you can pull some of it out of the middle and make a courtyard. So it is a very versatile structure, but the most important thing that it adds parking capacity in the short term, somewhere between 100 and 150 more spaces in the garage. That is so essential. So we have to build that first, get that out of the ground. That will take a year and a half, starting in 2022, in January of 2022. We could start sooner than that, but we truly feel that the business community needs to get back on its feet and cannot afford to lose the main parking garage for its downtown. So we have delayed it until 2022, early 2022, when we will start moving forward on that. As that project gets to an end a year and a half later, we will start picking, we'll have started picking around the edges of City Dock, and then started working on how we're going to raise it, how we're going to connect it. And then that will take, a similar time period, but it should be complete by the end of my second term. I'm saying that with some confidence there. It is expected cost, as you can see by the slide, around 34 million. But, this really is serious, and it is serious for many cities in the country, especially ones that are surrounded by water like ours. We have 17 miles of coastline to consider on how we're going to protect the whole city. This will be a case study that a lot of the country will be looking at, not only by the way we financed it, but the partnerships that we created, the buy-in that we got from the community to make it happen, the way we can finance it through a P3, and not go, how we can leverage the private sector. I say this all the time. We all need each other. We can't say, business bad or resident good or environmentalist, great, developer bad. We all depend on one another for different things. And we definitely need the private sector to help us with smart growth, and in a way that we can leverage some of the private sector to get some of our infrastructure needs met. And whether that's, improvements in stormwater retention or building, a barrier against sea level rise. And people have to understand, this is not just about the oceans warming and the sea rising. This would have protected us from an Isabel. I know every hurricane season, we watch the weather. Our Office of Emergency Management tracks the weather systems. We wait with bated breath to see whether there's going to be a high pressure system off of Norfolk, which way the wind is spinning, whether there's going to be a full moon, things that push stormwater up the Chesapeake Bay and into our streets in the city of Annapolis. And then we hope that there's not going to be a catastrophic event, but we know that they're happening with a lot more frequency than we've ever seen around the planet. And so this is going to protect us against those kind of events, not only as the sea levels rise.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot to that, and I think the combination of the two projects makes a lot of sense, and trying to phase them to minimize the impact on businesses is smart, and the net result will be a great long-term, it seems to be a long-term benefit. So continue to press forward with that. So if anyone has, again, questions, put them in the chat room. One quick one that I had seen earlier, 4th of July parade. You've talked about that as becoming a opportunity as a reopening day of sorts. Maybe you could speak a little bit to what your plans or thinking is for 4th of July.
I think that, we have to get the city back on its feet somehow. We have to draw a line somewhere. I'm encouraged by the rollout of the vaccines. I'm encouraged. Look, we've had our hiccups, but Team Maryland, Team Anne Arundel County, the city, I think we've done a good job. You consider where Maryland is. It is in a crossroads of so many states that were red for so long in terms of infection rates. And we managed to keep out of the red until the holidays. We're having different issues now, and a lot of it is related to supply and whether we're getting an equitable supply in our state. But I believe that we're going to be flooded with vaccines very soon. We have the infrastructure in place. I know we could have vaccinated a lot more people than we have if we'd been given the supply. So I'm encouraged by that. And people that haven't been able to get there, I can understand if they would want to stay away from the 4th of July parade if they were not feeling safe enough yet. We will be moving forward with the 4th of July. Thank you to the city event. We would like to lead that up with our heroes. With our nurses and our first responders and our doctors and our police officers, who all, without any consideration for their own safety, stepped into COVID and saved lives in the city and showed up to do their job. So we would like to thank them. I'm hoping to work closely with the county executive, the governor on this to bring us all together to do a big comeback Annapolis parade. That we can come out and just say thank you, and I can say thank you to you, because we save lives, and anyone that's on this call and all our residents here, you save lives by staying home, by keeping your distance, but you also supported the businesses. You came out and you bought takeout, or you bought things online from local businesses, and and I really do think this event brought out the best in people. People started food drives out of the backs of their minivans. People volunteered as we took testing into communities that didn't have the resources that other communities had, didn't have the mobility that other communities. So this whole pandemic showed that the city of Annapolis has a heart, a big, big heart. And I think, thanking everybody in the 4th of July would be very fitting.